Yep.
Dude, you went from 900K to 14 million the next year.
Hmm. 2 years ago, we didn't exist.
Okay.
So now, in 2 years, we are now the official sleep aid partner of UFC. We're partnered with Joe Rogan and his podcast. He's a user.
What's going on, y'all? This is Alex Quin, and today I have a very special guest. We have Alex Neist, CEO and founder of Hostage Tape. I loved your story, loved what you're working on.
It's a scroll stopper. People are going to stop and go, what the heck is mouth taping? Our whole mission is to try to help people recover and sleep better. Don't let bad sleep hold you hostage.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna text you right away and be like, yo, you changed my life.
Hey guys, this is Alex from Hostage Tape on Hustle Inspires Hustle.
What's going on, y'all? This is Alex Quin, and today I have a very special guest. We have Alex Neist, CEO and founder of Hostage Tape. What's up, man?
It's great to be here, Alex. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I was looking forward to this. When your team ran your profile by me, everything that you do, I was like, this has to be an extremely solid conversation. I loved your story, loved what you're working on. But before I jump into it, I want to give you an opportunity. I want to give you the floor to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what we're doing here today.
Yeah, so again, my name is Alex. I am the founder of Hostage Tape. Yes, you heard that right. Hostage Tape. We are the largest mouth tape brand in the world. Nobody comes even close to us. We're partnering with the UFC. We're partnering with Joe Rogan. We're all over the place. And chances are you've seen our brand come across your feed and you probably saw it and went, what the heck is mouth taping? And so our whole mission is to try to help people recover and sleep better.
So, oh my God, Hostage Tape. And the name of the brand has to do with a personal situation, correct?
It does. So do you want me to tell the story?
Oh, hell yeah. I want to hear it, man.
Okay. All right. So what's great about this is so I'm about to go. Have you heard of Limitless, the Limitless Arena? That's going to be in Salt Lake City here at the end of April.
Educate me.
So that's got like Ed Milet, David Goggins,
Hmm.
got all the big speakers we all know. They're going to be Salt Lake City. Andy Elliott's going to be there. Salt Lake City, April 27th, 10,000 people. We're the headline sponsor, and I get to be on stage in front of 10,000 people, and I get to tell this story.
Wow.
Okay. So it's going to be
Humongous
amazing.
crowd. This humongous crowd, man.
It's gonna be the biggest crowd that I've spoken in front of. I've spoken in front of maybe like 5,000 people, but never 10,000. So I played in front of 20,000 people because I was an athlete, but I've
What?
never actually spoken in front of that many people. So
You do have an athlete last name. Like it looks hard on a jersey.
yeah, right there. I, so if we want to jump in the DeLorean and go back in time even farther, right? I'm dating myself there.
Yeah.
So I was, I was a football player
Yeah.
coming out of high school, and I wanted to be the next Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner has probably one of the greatest Cinderella stories of all time in the NFL, and stocking shelves at Hy-Vee, right? Barely played in college, got his opportunity to play arena football, and then he built his name, took advantage of every opportunity, and now he's Hall of Fame quarterback that most of us all know that story of stocking shelves at Hy-Vee, now being an NFL Hall of Famer. And every guy that goes into the Arena Football League that's a quarterback dreams of working your way up just like Kurt did and then making it into the NFL. Didn't happen for me. I ended up starting a software company. So I bootstrapped a software company, a sports video analytics company for about 15, 16 years.
Hmm.
And this goes into the story. Okay, here's the story. So really 6 years ago, about 6+ years ago, I had everything, right? I had the software company that I'd started doing millions of dollars a year. I had my wife, I had my two kids, houses, cars. I had everything like you could imagine you'd want as an entrepreneur. Built
Right.
it, successful, all of it. And then within 2 years, I was divorced. I was living in my aunt's basement because I had to sell my house. And I sold my business for a job I hated. So I was vesting out the equity for the company that I sold to, and I hated it, right? Most entrepreneurs, you have this like illusion of grandeur of you're selling your company and then you're leveling up and you get to like do more. Usually, the company that buys you doesn't want that. They want to get rid of you. They just want what you built. And then a year in, every entrepreneur realizes, crap, okay, they don't want me. And I knew too that I'm a cowboy, right? I like building things. I like being my own boss. And I didn't want to be like, governed by what all these other people were telling me to do. I wanted to control my destiny. And so, going through that divorce though, at that point was a low point. It was a low point in my life. I'd hit rock bottom. We did curbside drop off with my kids. I only saw my kids half the time. My wife and I didn't talk. Like it was bad, right?
Mhm.
And so I had one of those self-reflecting moments of what do I need to do to improve myself, to get back to the man that I needed to be. And so I started with my sleep. I slept horribly most of my life,
Mhm.
particularly in my marriage, because I used to snore so bad that it pushed my wife into the other bedroom for years. And our intimacy broke down because I was burnt out. I was out of shape. I was neglecting myself, neglecting my wife, my kids. That whole story that most of us entrepreneurs fall into, like you put all those things together, and then it's just a optimal scenario where just everything can fall apart
Yeah.
unless you've got the reins on it. And I didn't, because being an athlete and then now becoming a father and an entrepreneur was a whole new chapter, right? You kind of lose yourself and then you're trying to find yourself again. And
Mhm.
so I lost myself completely. So in looking at my sleep, I read James Nestor's best-selling book, Breath. Got to read this book if you haven't. It's really easy read. But he talks about this experiment where they go to Stanford Medical Center. They plug their nose for 10 days. And over those 10 days, they developed sleep apnea. They snored like crazy and had dangerously low levels of blood oxygen.
Hmm.
And then after those 10 days, they unplugged their nose, they mouth taped, and everything went away in one day. The light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, was it really that simple? Like, was it mouth breathing? Because as an athlete, right, my whole life, our coaches never taught us this. They never taught us the dangers of mouth breathing and just how great and how much we should be nasal breathing, right? We should only be nasal breathing when we're talking, or we should only be mouth breathing when we're talking or eating, right? That's it. And so sitting in my aunt's basement then over 4 years ago, getting that first amazing good night of sleep was jolting because when you get poor sleep for years, it stacks, gets worse and worse and worse. So then when you finally get great sleep, you're like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
what it really feels like. When
Yeah.
that happened, and then I had a series of amazing night sleeps that's now led me to here, where we're now partnered with UFC. We just announced that. So think about how crazy that is. 2 years ago, we didn't exist. Now we're the official
Within two
sleep aid.
years?
2 years ago, we didn't exist. Yeah. I launched this 2 years ago.
Okay.
So now in 2 years, we are now the official sleep aid partner of UFC. We're partnered with Joe Rogan and his podcast. He's a user. Aspire Tour, if you've seen those, again, those are headline business speak like talks that like David Goggins and all those guys speak in the Limitless Arena. And then we're partnered with Andy Elliott and the Elliott Army. If you've seen him, right? The you don't have a six pack, you're fired, right? That guy.
Okay.
And so so now here's the best part. Okay. So now that I'm the man, the father, the leader, the partner that I'm proud to be today, having gone through all of that now, um, so one day on curbside drop off, my wife comes up to the car and we had our first conversation in over 2 years.
Was she your ex-wife at this point or still your wife?
She was my ex-wife.
Okay.
You'll understand why in a second.
Yeah.
So then she invites me into her home and I'm able to see my kid's bedroom also for the first time in 2 years,
Yeah.
right? The universe works in mysterious ways, right? So now my wife and I sleep in the same bed. Every once in a while, I'll forget to put it on, and she'll bump me and say, "Honey, put your tape on." Because now my wife, my kids, and I were actually back together again.
Ah, amazing,
So
man.
it all comes full circle, right? When you go through those types of things, right? Those types of failures, those types of experiences help create who you are, and I don't regret any of it, right? Because it
Yeah,
helped
because
make
almost
it
like what would have happened if you continued the same way, you know?
exactly. I don't know where I would be. I don't know
Yeah.
what would have happened, and but that's always been a gift of mine is you can knock me down and I'll get back up.
Yeah.
and I'll keep going and I'll find a way because I've always had like a chip on my shoulder to be able to find a way to make it work. Right.
So it's almost
People
like you were
don't.
held hostage away from your family because of this specific thing, and then you found the solution, and thankfully, thank God, everything worked itself out. There's the reason behind the name.
Exactly. So now let's explain where hostage tape came from. Because, right, in the middle of that story, now what you can hear is, oh, okay. People feel held hostage by their poor sleep or their partner, and they don't know what to do. Right. And
Yeah.
the amount of people in this country and even the world who this is happening to, like, so here's a statistic. There's 128 million households in the US. Over 71% of them are mouth breathing at night. That means most people are getting terrible sleep and they don't know what to do, right? Or they're snoring like crazy, or they're sleeping in separate bedrooms. And we shouldn't be as
Yeah.
partners.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people going through this. And this simple idea of mouth taping sounds crazy to most people,
Yeah.
but it's
It
such a
works.
simple concept. It works.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple, even if you weren't going to use hostage tape, you could try using a piece of tape just to see, does it even work for you? Because for most people, it will. And it's a very simple, non-invasive way rather than saying, I'm going to go get surgery. I'm going to go buy thousands of dollars of equipment. This could be a simple way to try it out and see if it works. So hostage tape, what really was born out of that concept of, okay, yes, when you've got tape on your mouth, you do kind of look like you're being held hostage, but we're tapping into this emotional connection, this emotional response that people have. And at the time, shout out to Liquid Death. I was really in,
Yeah.
this is the pink
Fire.
flavor, the
Super
orange one, by
fire.
the way.
Yeah.
I was really into Liquid Death at the time. And I loved how they took marketing and they flipped it on its head.
Conventional.
And
Yeah.
we need to stand out. And I'll never forget, shout out to Moise Ali. He founded Native Deodorant. I heard him. I was really into listening to podcasts at the time too. At that, I was listening to My First Million with shout out to Sam and Sean, and they were talking about Moise, where Moise he would go down the aisles of Target and he would look at a wall of white or a wall of blue, and you see an opportunity, right? If there's a big enough TAM, there's an opportunity to take a product and stand out. So I knew that this is tape. This is a commodity. I was nervous because any commodity you wonder, is there enough of a unique selling proposition here to be able to
Right.
stand out? Is there enough of a moat that I can create that I have a business, right? So it's, do I have the balls to do this? And is there a business here? And that inspired me to do it, to take the leap, because I knew that I could create this brand with hostage tape that stood out. You see it and it's a scroll stopper. People are going to stop and go, what the heck is this? And you never forget it. Nobody that's ever seen it forgets it.
Pattern interrupt immediately, whether it's in person or whether it's on social media, right off the bat.
Right. It's a word that nobody ever wants to touch. And I now own it. I'm the
Yeah.
only one that I own hostage, the word hostage, and nobody ever wants to touch it. So now it works to our advantage in a way that now I can tell a story. I can get your attention, I can stop you, and then I can bring you into this story that I went through that most people are going through and they're just not talking about it.
I was listening to Rogan. Um, I always listen to him, but it was a few weeks ago. He was talking on an episode about he was on a plane and this guy was snoring like crazy, just
Yep.
like shuffling and shifting and he actually said something to him. He's like, "Hey man, you might have sleep apnea." "Oh, what is that?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I offer the solution right away. Those are the best kind of stories because like you said, a lot of people that might be their target demographic, they might not even know they are your target demographic. They don't even know. Like I could already tell you 3 people in my family that they need to be held hostage by you.
Well, it's like I said, I went, so here's another story. So I, I've always had really, really bad teeth growing
Okay.
up. And as a kid,
Is it like shifted out of place or like cavities or like
so
what
I had a lot of pitting in my back, like molars, the big teeth.
okay.
And my dentist, this was back in the 80s, my dentist couldn't figure out why. He actually thought I was bulimic. Like,
Hmm.
how crazy is it that this like young kid who was an athlete's bulimic, like a boy, like that's unheard of. That doesn't make any sense. But he couldn't explain it. And so what was happening was one of the issues with mouth breathing is when you mouth breathe, you are getting rid of saliva. Saliva in our mouth has good bacteria in it, protects our teeth, protects the enamel, and then it reduces bad breath. But when we mouth breathe now, all that saliva evaporates, and then bad bacteria forms, eats away at the enamel,
Oh my
and
God.
you also get really bad breath. So I was a mouth breather my whole life, and it was killing my teeth. And my dentist at the time didn't know. And so there's so many people in this country in Western civilization that we just lost this concept of mouth breathing and why it's so bad for us.
Hmm.
But it's taught in yoga. Why do you think it's taught in yoga? It's because in Eastern cultures, it's very well known that we need to keep our mouth shut. We need to use our nose, right? So, and even decades ago, Nestor talks about this, where the coaches, back in the 40s and 50s, used to teach their athletes, like track athletes, they put water in their mouth so that they would keep their mouth shut and they would only use their nose when they were running.
Wow.
Fascinating, fascinating concept. But um, I'll drop some more. Here's another reason why it's important. It's because most people, again, you hear that and you go, okay, how is nose breathing different than mouth breathing? Because you think about it logically and go, but I'm breathing in the same air. I can actually get more air in through my mouth. So it doesn't make sense, Alex. Something doesn't add up. And that's most Americans. So here's what it comes down to. It's this concept called the Bohr effect. Okay. So
Or
hopefully I won't bore you with this. So the
don't.
Bohr effect was published. The Bohr effect was published in the early 1900s by doctors and scientists. And really simply what it says is in our body, the more CO2 that we have, the more that our body is able to use oxygen in our muscles because there's a one-for-one exchange of CO2 and oxygen, right? Oxygen comes in, boom, CO2 is released. So what that means is when we keep our mouth shut, now we're not exhaling as much CO2. So we have more CO2 in our body that the oxygen we're inhaling can actually be used. It's
Wow.
very counterintuitive when you think about it, but that's the physics of it in our body. And and then also when you breathe through your nose, you're triggering the release of nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is a vasodilator that opens up the vessels, increases blood flow throughout the body. So then that oxygen you're pulling in can actually get circulated throughout the body.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
It's so incredible how you've been able to make such a huge difference in people's life with a concept so simple, right? Because
I
you thought
know.
about it like, how can, this is a commodity, right?
Right.
How do I make it stand out? Well, name it something totally incredible and tie it to something really awesome, which is family, right?
Yep.
Drawing inspiration from many people that you look up to, and then also integrating into brands like UFC, Rogan, like it's been very well developed. And the way that you're breaking it down, you could tell you spent a lot of time really trying to perfect this thing. You're really passionate about it, and that's why it works.
100%, man. And that's why I think at the end of the day, what I wanted to build was a brand. I wanted to build a brand that inspired other men to change their lives, right? Because when you experience mouth taping for the first time and it actually changes your life, you want to tell everybody about it. It's so simple, right? Now, let's also talk about it because there's many people that are going to listen to this and go, well, why wouldn't I just use regular tape, Alex? What's the difference?
Hmm.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why.
Chemicals ripping your lips. Let's go into it.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So what's funny is most people who are mouth tapers, they might use like 3M tape, paper tape, surgical tape, micropore tape. It's very rigid, but it's cheap and if you know what to look for, you can find it. The problem is most people don't know what to look for and most people aren't inspired to buy 3M tape or surgical tape to mouth tape. It's just There's not a good, compelling story there.
Yeah.
And so here's a piece of hostage tape. Okay.
Okay.
Our signature
Okay.
black color. We do have a women's color now, by the way. We've got a
All
nice
right.
pink, but our black color, just pop it. And what you'll notice is that it's a flexible fabric.
Hmm.
So it's completely breathable.
I didn't imagine it like that. Okay.
Right.
I'm glad you're
So it's
showing it to me.
completely, yeah. So what most people also think too is they go, it's a lot of anxiety. I think I'm putting something over my mouth. It's gonna complete like duct tape. It's not like duct tape at all.
Mhm.
It's not gonna
It's like meshy,
suffocate
like
you.
meshy, right? Like
Yeah, it's very
stretchy. Yeah.
it's stretchy, flexible fabric,
Mm.
right? That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so what that means is then it's really comfortable. It moves with your mouth. Okay. Very
Mm.
soothing when you actually put it on and once you get used to it, having something cover your mouth. And then it works really well with facial hair stubble because it's flexible. It lays over any bumps, ridges, hairs on your mouth. Whereas like a rigid tape doesn't lay on bumpy, uneven surfaces very well.
Right. Right.
And then it's comfortable and it's strong. Now it took me about 6 months to actually perfect the adhesive on this because I had to find something that was strong enough to hold, but it wasn't so strong that you felt like you were literally super gluing tape to your mouth.
Right. Right.
Then you felt like you were being suffocated.
Right.
And so ultimately we came up with the strongest comfortable mouth tape on the planet. So it's going to feel comfortable. It's going to work. It's going to hold for men with strong jaws like us. And it also, in some weird ways, it looks cool. As funny as that sounds, it's a piece of black tape, right? We didn't want it to look medical, boring, stuffy, band-aid like.
Hmm.
We wanted it to be different.
Yeah, like an accessory almost, but comfortable and getting the job done.
Totally. And then
So
you're seeing now we came out with a secondary product too. I'm wearing our nose strip.
I was about to go there. Yeah. So tell me about
Yeah.
that.
So one of the questions we kept getting was, well, what about my nose? Because there's a lot of people right now who are watching this or listening to it thinking, well, I've got a deviated septum, so I wouldn't be able to mouth tape. Well, actually, you still could mouth tape. It's still perfectly okay for you to do it as long as you can breathe out of your nose and not feel like you have to breathe out of your mouth. In fact, we're partnered with the Los Angeles Center for Ear, Nose, and Throat. They're the largest ENT clinic in California.
Hmm.
And he always says, if you can lay down, keep your mouth shut, and breathe through your nose and not need to open your mouth and gasp for air, then you can safely mouth tape. You'll be fine. Because
Okay.
you're not moving around, you're not creating a reason for you to breathe really heavily, right?
Yeah.
You're just very sedentary. And so people that feel like they've got maybe issues with their nose, their nasal cavity, deviated septums, the nose strip has plastic in it it helps flare the nostrils out and
Hmm.
open up the nose. So now I can get more air into my nose.
Understood.
And what we found too is I know for me, I can't not wear a nose strip when I go for a run and work out because you should be nose breathing when you're running and working out. Unless you're doing like super heavy sprints, then yeah, maybe you need to open your mouth. But for the most part, we should be keeping the mouth shut, breathing through your nose in all your workouts. And so this really helps me do that. And for a lot of people, they'll wear the nose strip and the mouth tape when they sleep as well. And so we decided we wanted to take a breathe right and make it look cool.
Let me ask you something. I've seen in the market, I've seen these people wear these nose strips that have like a metal, like a magnet on it. I
Mhm.
almost felt like that was a little much. What are the pros and cons? What are the differences between that and what you guys are bringing to the table?
Yeah, well, so those, I mean, some people might like those, some people don't. I know
Okay,
for
but it
us,
works.
they work.
Okay.
What what we found is, I mean, think about it like this, right? If if I've got you in our ecosystem and you trust us, you're buying our mouth tape, and then I can add in an additional way to add value, then you're going to buy from us and trust
Oh yeah.
us, right? The for us, the challenge that I've heard with like those magnet ones is you might be, we've got a lot of guys doing like jujitsu, and those don't hold. They'll fly off, and they don't stick. Whereas ours is going to stick no matter where you are, right? In fact,
You remember?
I'm
You remember?
wearing one where in the morning I'll go do either a sauna, cold
Yeah,
plunge, a run, and a workout, and then after I'm done with all of that, I'm still wearing my nose strip, right?
nice.
And most others wouldn't stay on through all of that.
Gotcha. And you know what I was thinking of is, remember back in the day when they had those magnetic like earrings that people would put on?
Oh yeah.
Like
Yep.
I thought, and that I remember being little. Definitely bought a few, and that shit would
Yep.
hurt. Like it would start hurting here like heavily. So when I saw it online, I was like, oh, it almost looks like it could work, but I would be so hesitant to put a magnet on my nose because I just feel like it would hurt like hell. Um, listen to me. Question for you.
Yep.
You grew up in the country?
Yeah. In the rural area of Minnesota, I was a
Cold then.
farm country boy. Yep.
Okay, and how was that? Like, how did you end up getting like? How did you transition into the big cities? Like, how was that for you? Was it college?
So so my dad was a doctor,
Mm,
and
a very
he
important part. Yeah.
decided. Yeah, he decided. It's what's ironic when you think about it. You go, your dad's a doctor, and you started a mouth taping company. It's very taboo, right? But ironically, here's the funny story about that. So, and I'll come back to the early childhood days. When I started the brand, I was afraid to tell my dad about it because a lot of doctors, especially in Western culture, a lot of mainstream doctors aren't really up to speed on nose breathing, mouth breathing, and its concepts of mouth taping. You'll get a lot of them who maybe don't agree with it, but a lot of the more holistic doctors are
Yeah.
very on the level with mouth taping,
Yeah.
and they'll recommend it and they like it. And my dad, he grew up in the old days of medicine. So I'm like, I don't know, my dad's kind of like this. And he goes, "Oh no, I think it's a great idea." Because I've been doing that for years. I used to take it though, and I would just put it under my chin and then I would wrap it up rather than cover my mouth.
And did you
And I
know
was
this?
like,
No.
I didn't know he did that. Yeah.
Ah, dude.
So there you
That
go.
was onto something you didn't know. Look at that, a full circle moment.
I know, right? It's crazy.
Validation
Like
though for you.
who would have thought that my dad has been doing it for years and then his son would go off and start $1 billion mouth taping company, you know? So
Oh, billion. You're working your
we
way
will be.
towards. Or have you guys gotten? Is that your market cap?
We'll be $1 billion brand.
Okay.
We're
How
not
are
yet, but
you guys
we'll
did
be.
great last year? You guys did what, like 30 mil last year?
So year one we did 900K. Last year we did 14 million. This year we'll do 40 million. So
Okay, so
within a
this
few
is the year where
years.
you're okay.
Yep.
Dude, you went from 900K to 14 million the next year.
Mm-hmm.
What would you attribute most of that
Crazy.
growth to? Was it a lot of like sponsorships and podcasting? Or are you doing a lot of paid ads that
Now
got
it's
you
Facebook.
there?
Yeah,
Facebook
there
ads?
was a point. So when I started the brand, I I'm very technical. I'm a numbers guy
Mhm.
because I've been an entrepreneur my whole life now. I always start with a 2-year P&L. So I knew what all my numbers needed to look like, what it was going to be. And I also knew that there's two things that I'm going to spend all my money on: Facebook ads, meta ads,
Yeah.
and inventory. And I am going to own those. I'm not going to outsource that to somebody else because if I don't understand those, where my biggest dollars are going to, how the hell am I going to scale this thing? Like truly, right? And so I never done Facebook ads before. So I learned. It took 6 months, learn how to do
Yeah,
Facebook ads.
yourself.
Hmm.
I'm a media buyer. I've been a media buyer for 15 years. I have a podcast. I'm a podcast, but my job
Yep.
is to be run ads for companies, products, and services. That's why I'm blown away. The fact that you learned in 6 months and you got from 900K to 14 million, dude.
Yeah, we were there was a point where I was spending $1 million a month. Not long. There was a few months where I scaled it up to $1 million a month and spend, and then I hit a threshold where I'm like, this isn't efficient. And so I
Yeah,
scaled back to be a little bit more profitable.
yeah,
And right now we spend about $500,000 a month on Facebook.
incredible, man. Incredible. I love to hear that. So you're really hands on with your shit, bro. Like, And I
Oh,
think that's
dude,
the
100%
one of
hands
the
down.
keys to why things are working for you the way they are, because like you you're so dedicated to getting each part right and where you fully understand it. And when it comes time to delegate, you know what you're talking about.
Well, exactly. And that's where we're at now. So I've got a team of about 25 guys.
Yeah.
So a year ago, I brought on Connor. Connor is my head of growth.
Okay.
And I brought him in and I said, all right, Connor, you're going to start to shadow me and you're going to follow everything I'm doing in Facebook because at some point, I'm going to let go of the wheel and I'm going to let you take the reins. I'm still here. I'm still ultimately calling all the shots, but then he's now in the day-to-day account, pulling the levers, right? Doing all those things, doing all the testing, everything we need to do to put everything in. So now he's doing that 100%. And I've been able to step out of that. And then I just get that $500,000 invoice from Facebook every month that I got to make sure is paid.
You just rack up them points on that Amex, man.
You know what? So for the first year and a half, we didn't have the invoicing, right? The line of credit.
Yeah, so
And
it's
I
like
was
building every
using
day, like random numbers.
well, I was using the credit card. So I'd gotten really good at it was charging me, the $900 limit.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how many times a day it would hit it.
Start
And
declining.
then you and then you get really good at knowing how far you can push the credit card because what will happen is you'll hit your limit and then you'll get a notification saying you've hit your limit. Charges may be declined, but you can always push past it. At
Yeah.
least with mine, I can with American Express. So I learned how far I could push past it and let it go. So then I had to pay it down and then I could keep pushing it. I could move it to it, like do different things with it.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that dance where I had like 2 million points on my Amex card. It was crazy. Like I am a diamond medallion Delta status now for like life practically with what I built up to this point. But now, because I'm on invoicing and the line of credit with Facebook, I don't quite have as many points as I was used to getting.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out a way that I can still leverage that.
I
I've left Google on the credit card, so I'm still getting a good amount of spend there.
I used to have this issue with a client of mine last year. We were doing about 3 million a month in sales on like 200,000 on Facebook ads,
Yeah.
200,000 ad spend, 3 million a month. And dude, this client refused to add a backup credit card. And the client would never be on top of payments.
Oof.
So we would have the ads would scale, they would be rushing, and all of a sudden, all ad campaigns
Off.
disabled. Oh God, call back. Hey, listen, like we're making 3 mil a month. Like you really got this credit card thing. If you know how machine learning works, we can't keep screwing these ads up. And it was a big learning lesson because something as little as that could completely collapse your business. And especially like in that specific case for us, we were bringing in all that revenue just through Facebook. So we were a one-legged stool,
Yeah.
right? So I was trying to perfect that before jumping to TikTok, before jumping to, because that's another thing, right? Ad accounts, you never know what's going to happen. You're going to like it's going to get hacked. You don't have two-step verification, or somebody else doesn't have two-step
Mhm.
verification. A plethora of things that could happen that shut your account down. So it is very important to be omnipresent. And I see that you are not just, I'm not just talking from the ad perspective, but what you're doing with the UFC is really big, man. And the fact like that you're doing the Joe Rogan thing is really, really cool. I would like for you to maybe unpack that a little bit, how that came to be.
Yeah, let me explain the strategy with UFC because I was actually I was in New York City the other week at Triple Whale. They had
Yeah.
the Triple Whaleys, and I actually was on stage. I talked about this particular partnership, and this is a really interesting one that so with UFC, traditionally, most partners that partner with UFC, and even like think of the NFL, the NBA, like all of those, they're really kind of the same bucket. You think about a partnership as being an awareness play, and you usually wouldn't jump in and do a partnership like that until you had the amount of revenue that you could spend on awareness plays like that, right? And so you would look at us and go, "You're not there yet. We're probably a year away." to where we would really be able to spend that kind of money where it's an awareness play, or at least maybe until we get into retail.
Mm.
Which, by the way, I want you and everybody to hear. We will be the first mouth tape brand in big box retail ever. We will be the first. So UFC came to us. It turns out all of their executives at UFC like use hostage tape. Like, it turns out they all knew who we were. So they came to us and were like, "Hey, we would love to work with you guys. So let's work something out." So we flew out there and they pitched it to us. And I was very clear to them. I said, "Look, we're a D2C company. We're not in retail yet. This is what our revenue looks like. This is our scale. This is what we're at. So just, I'm not Prime. I'm not Bud Light. I'm not Manscaped. I don't have that kind of
Yeah.
revenue, top line revenue yet to be able to drop like the amount of money that those guys do. Those guys spend an insane amount a year with them." And so they were like, "Okay, we get it." And so when I sat and I watched what they presented, what's cool about UFC is different than other leagues is they gave us the ability to use their licensing. So we have UFC licensing. So we get to use UFC and hostage tape in all of our creative. Now it's approved by UFC. Like, we can't run anything unless they approve it. So it's got to go through those processes.
Right.
But I saw that as a holy smokes. I don't even care about being in the octagon. Like, it's cool to be able to see hostage tape in the octagon, and you will see us. We'll be in the octagon next month for the St. Louis fight for 301. That'll be our first octagon presence for hostage tape. So watch 301 and you'll see it.
Congrats, man.
But that's awareness, right? Where people watch it and then what?
Mm.
What happens? As a D2C company, that's not predictable revenue for me. I can't bank on that. I can't take the money I spend on that partnership and then correlate it to direct revenue back.
Revenue.
We're
Yeah.
we're just not at that scale.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Because I've got pretty much free reign on their licensing, barring approval. I don't know what it's like to work with the NFL, but I'm guessing I wouldn't have as much freedom to be able to create NFL creative and run it in Facebook like I can with UFC. So now
Yeah.
with UFC, I can run a dedicated campaign. So I've got a dedicated Facebook campaign right now. We're using an ASC for that. And we're spending, maybe it's 3K a day, all right, with UFC hostage tape creative, some statics, some carousels, and some videos that goes to a Facebook, or I'm sorry, it goes to a landing page, a UFC landing page to buy the hostage tape UFC bundle. So I've got a funnel, a UFC funnel, right? That is now giving me 2-3x return back. So now I've got predictable revenue on a daily basis, purely just using UFC licensing. So when I sat in the meeting and I went, "That's my play," the UFC was like, "Nobody's ever done that before. That's interesting." Okay. And like every week, there's nobody's ever done that before. Huh. Okay, cool. Like, we're gonna give our product to all the fighters. There's like 650 fighters across the UFC. Every one of them is gonna get hostage tape. And they're like, "None of our partners have ever done that before."
What?
And so we're like, "Yeah, we want to make sure all the fighters have it,
Yeah.
all of them use it. So if they want to post about it, great."
Want it to be
And
real. Yeah.
and then but that this is the linchpin of the whole partnership was we're doing paid media, you leveraging the UFC licensing. That's it. For year one. That's the plan. Right?
I would have a
Now,
blast with their custom audiences shared to your Facebook manager and run ads to their specific custom audiences.
oh, well, that's what we're doing. So
There you go.
we've got the partnership. So on all
Yeah.
our ads, we got the partnership tag on. So now when you see an ad, if it's the UFC ad, it's hostage tape and UFC. Totally,
Wow.
dude. So that's the beauty of this now is, and we're the only ones doing it. We're the only ones doing this, apparently. But I get why. Most of these other partners with UFC, they're all retail plays,
Yeah.
right? And when you get into retail, just like once we get into retail, it's going to be Target, right? We'll get into Target. That'll be our first one. I'm putting it out into the universe. I'm calling my shot. So when we get into Target, we'll have an end cap just like Bloom. I love what Greg did with Bloom Nutrition and how they've got this beautiful end cap. So like when you walk down the aisle, you can discover Bloom Nutrition because it's this beautiful end cap. You're gonna walk through and discover hostage tape on this beautiful end cap. And those retailers will require you to put in an X amount of like media buy, right? It's part of that agreement. So most of those retail partners, they're able to do that with UFC budget, where then once we get into Target, I'll be able to allocate budget to UFC because we have pass-through rights. So I can put on the octagon hostage tape by a Target.
Hmm.
So that is our strategy with the UFC and just and now imagine. So we announced it, and my head of partnerships, Pat, like he's got 5 meetings a day right now with professional teams. Like we just met with the Minnesota Twins today. And because I'm in Minnesota, I'm like, I grew up watching the Twins, Homer Hankies, Kirby Puckett, like all that.
Right.
So, like, how amazing is it that we can start adding key teams in every league, NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL. Obviously, we're not going to get all of them. Maybe someday we'll have them all, but not right now. Like, we'll pick a few that we really like
Right.
that helps us. And then we can leverage and do the same thing. We can do paid media with those organizations. We can run some funny ad content in our locker rooms, do some different things. Because with most of these teams, we also get all the product in the locker room. So all the players are using it. They might be posting about it, talking about it too.
Alex, how are you so good at marketing, man? Like, real talk, was that something that was part of your college route? Are
Now,
you actively studying and being part of things in the industry? Because you're very on it, man, and like you're connecting
here's
these dots the way they need to be connected quickly.
here's what I would say. So you might look at me and Hostage Tape and go, man, they're like an overnight success.
Yeah.
But I would say we're a 16-year overnight success
Hmm.
because I spent 16 years building my first business. Now it was SaaS, it wasn't
Yeah.
e-commerce, but you get all those reps in 16 years of it of failing and failing and learning and failing and adapting and learning. Then you're able to look at many different scenarios and you know what to do. So I attribute my success and my ability now to that, right? To all of those years.
Yeah.
But I also think that now that I've gotten into e-commerce, I feel like it's something I'm really good at naturally. And I don't
Hmm.
know if it's because of that experience, it's because of my life experience. I don't know, but it comes very easy to me. And I love it. And so really actually Nice Media is a whole company. We created a whole company where Holco where Hostage Tape is the first brand, and then we actually have a second brand that we created, QB Grip. If you go on Instagram, you'll see QB Grip. You'll see me talking about quarterback grips. There'll be a product that we're going to release from there within the next year, and then we'll just keep building brands because I'm of the belief that once you've built and you've sold a company, you realize that the the fulfillment is in being able to play the game, right, and having a purpose. It's not selling it and then riding off into the sunset and sitting on a beach somewhere because as men, we need purpose. We need something to get up every day and drive us and something to do. And so I want to keep building till I'm in the grave.
Alex, how do you want to be remembered?
How do I want to be remembered? Oh boy. I think this company is probably going to be what people remember me for. I think this is one of those things that comes along once in a lifetime, and we caught lightning in a bottle. And people are going to remember me as, I think, maybe a visionary in some ways. Maybe I'll get put in the same bucket as Liquid Death. What those guys are doing. I would be honored to be part of that group, to be part of that fraternity with those guys, what they did, because they inspired me.
Mhm.
So to be a visionary, to be a trailblazer, in e-commerce and D2C and just the things we're doing.
Partnerships, yeah, all that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool partnerships. Cool stuff, man. I'm really blown away by this. I was very excited to have you on. Very grateful you took the time to chat with us here. I learned a lot about you today. Just sitting down with you is even more incredible than reading the story. So really cool energy, dude. Really cool innovation. I'm really glad that your team brought this across my desk. Where can we find you on socials, man? Where can we connect with you? But where can we also
Yeah.
connect with your brand? Where's the best ways to find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram, Alex Neist. So at Alex Neist,
Mm-hmm.
Neist. And then you can find the brand at Hostage Tape. You can go to hostagetape.com. And then on Instagram, that's probably our best channel. You can find us at Hostage Tape.
Beautiful. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we jump off?
Don't let bad sleep hold you hostage.
No, you know what, man? I'm a client already. As soon as we got off, I'm making an order because I feel like I need it. And the sleep is very important for me. I'm a Whoop guy. I track my HRV.
Yeah.
I'm a full plunge guy.
Well,
Like
let me
I'm
ask
into
you
all
this,
that.
Alex, when you wake up in the morning, is your mouth dry?
My mouth is dry, dude. Not just in the morning. I gotta wake up in the middle of the night with have a water bottle next to me. I gotta drink it because I'm parched.
Dude, yeah. So you are a classic mouth breather. So I would tell everybody that's watching and listening that my first question is always, do you mouth breathe when you sleep? Most people say, I don't know. So then I say, okay, when you wake up, do you have a dry mouth? And they go, yeah, you're a mouth breather. Try it. Try it out. Go to the website, just buy a month's supply. Try it. And then when you do it, right? Just again, remember you're gonna pull your tape out and then just pull it and pop it. Okay. Make sure your mouth is dry, no grease on there. You're gonna try it and you're gonna wake up and you're probably gonna be blown away by how you feel.
Hell yeah, I'm text you right away and be like, yo, you changed my life.
Dude, the amount of people who so I'll be in the airport. I'm always branded. If you ever see me in person, you will always see me branded wearing some kind of hostage tape gear, probably
Yeah.
wearing a nose strip. So I'll go through the airport and I'll get stopped at least like 5 times in the airport. And they'll say, do you work for hostage tape? And then I go, I'm actually the founder. And they're like, get out of here. Dude, I've been wearing hostage tape for 6 months. It changed my life.
Hmm.
Every
Wow.
time. Nothing better than
All right. The validation and just like,
seeing, yeah, there's nothing better than seeing other men that you've helped. You've changed their lives just like it changed my life.
yeah.
So simple.
Well, I can't wait to try the product, man. Thanks so much for joining us here today. I'm really excited to get this episode out and to share this technology with my listeners, man. This is incredible.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. Great to be here.
All right, man. God bless. All right, y'all. This is Alex and Alex on Hustle Inspires Hustle. We'll catch you on the next episode.